Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 3 of Yet Another Guy. So first off, I'm sorry it took quite a long time to post this third episode, but yeah, it takes a lot of work and time that I need to be completely free to do it, so please forgive me. Anyway, today what I would like to talk about, it's always related to the same situation that we spoke on previous episodes, that in the end is regarding men's health, but about the divorces and the separation, but today mainly focused on marriages that have children, and how sometimes men are not given enough the attention and respect to what they give regarding their relation with their children. There is a very special bond and importance of the presence of the father with children within a family environment. There have been quite a lot of studies regarding the need and the importance of fathers with children and their presence, and also a lot of statistics and studies and papers written regarding what can happen and what probably will happen if you take the father and their presence from the children. I'll put some links regarding this, so if you have the time and you want to check it, please do. But I want to really accentuate that this is not an opinion. This is not my opinion. This is, it's factual. If a father isn't present for some reason, those children will have way more chances of having problems in the future, either addiction problems, studies and intellectual development problems, aggressive behavior that then leads to criminality. Unfortunately, there are several studies regarding this, and it's very sad, but again, it's a fact that a lot of situations of incarceration and criminality, mainly from men, were situations that they grew up without their fathers, and they grew up alone with their mothers. Again, look, please understand, this is not in any way putting the blame on the single moms. They obviously are fabulous and incredible, and they did that all by themselves. But you can't take and deny that this is a fact. They may have in the future also psychological development problems, disorders, and this is all connected to the growing up without their fathers. Obviously, ideally, what should happen is, the divorce shouldn't happen. That would be the ideal for the children. And children would grow in an environment where they have what the mother has to give them and what the father has to give them. And they're completely different things. Hence, when these studies have shown that when you don't have the presence of the father, certain specific things have more tendency to happen. And again, it's not an opinion, unfortunately. I feel that when people divorce, they don't think about these things. They're thinking about, I don't want to continue this. I'm tired of this. Or this person treated me bad and did this to me, and enough is enough. And look, I completely agree and understand that it's very good that the opportunity of divorce exists now, mainly for women, obviously, and that they now have the liberty to choose to end the marriage, and and they have their freedom. But I feel that the problem is there is a lack of responsibility regarding that. And again, mainly if you have children, you have to seriously think about when you engage and you start a divorce, that from now on your child won't have the same, starting opportunities as other children that are in a stable family. That doesn't mean they can't do it, of course, that's not what I mean. And they still have the mother and the father obviously present, hopefully. But there is already, it's like they're already starting the race a few meters behind. And I do feel that when people decide to have the divorce, they're thinking about themselves and how unsatisfied they feel and their life is, and they want to change it. And of course they have all the rights for these feelings, but they also chose to have a child and a commitment to what that represents to the child and to the whole thing of the marriage, I guess. But you have to remember one thing, and again, now I'm talking about the perspective of men. I feel that when women initiate the divorce, now they feel completely empowered. All the help and kind of the acknowledgement that they have this right. And I'm not saying they are not thinking about their children, please. Of course they do. But I don't know if most women really, go through the statistics and the studies done regarding this and how impactful it will be on their children. And if in this situation they try to isolate the children from seeing their father, and that unfortunately also happens a lot, it really creates a big problem and disadvantage for their children that they so much love and want their best. And again, I'm not saying they're doing this on purpose. I think that if they would be completely aware of how important the presence of the father is to their children, they probably wouldn't do that, or at least they wouldn't separate them from their children. But this happens. And if it's not like in a legal way, it's, putting a lot of difficulties. And I just feel that this is not considered. I feel that from my experience, hearing, women talk, it's a very personal thing. And of course it is personal, just like it would be with men when they divorce. It's always personal. But look, let's say you are completely fed up with this guy. He did you wrong. he doesn't treat you well, he's disrespectful, he doesn't bring enough to the table, let's put it that way. And besides that, he treats you bad. He doesn't make you feel loved. He doesn't he doesn't give you what you need and what you want from him, let's say, from a certain point. That's between you and him. And that might all be true completely. He may have done all these things and, just not been a good partner to you. And really a bad person related to the relationship to you. But that is completely separate from his relationship with the child. He might, be all those things, but it's a thing between you and him, not between him and the child. And look, even in situations that, the father is, also does mistakes with children, maybe he's not present enough, maybe he's not willing to give his time enough, but he's there, and children sense that there's this just the presence of the father and some things that he says that it's a mark on their life forever. And if you confuse that with your personal view of him and then you take him from his child, it's in fact it's a very selfish act, if you understand what I mean. And again, look, this would be the same way for men that would do that to a woman. Just the same, children need their mothers, of course. And if they're doing that and, isolating the child from seeing their mother, this is horrible. But we have to agree this is not common. Men don't do that. Not because they're perfect or great. It's not really the most common thing. But the opposite happens, and we know this. So we have to keep in mind this thing that one thing is our relationship with our partner and how we don't feel any more, fulfilled and happy with that person for whatever reason. And even again, if there were acts that shouldn't have happened, and rightfully you feel that no, this is not justifiable, it's not acceptable, and I deserve better, that you should always think in that way. But you have to separate that from his relationship with the child. Are they actually really treating bad the child? Like, in the same way that you feel that, let's say he screams at you constantly, he mistreats you emotionally. Does he actually do that to the child? Does he hit the child? Because, of course, if a father, that's what he does, and he's drunk and he's extremely, extremely aggressive to the child and emotionally, abusive to the child, even if it's not physical, in a physical way, of course, then you're protecting the child from someone like that. And obviously you should, separate the child from that. But most of the situations where women during the divorce kind of really separate the fathers from their children for whatever reason, it's not about a father that was abusive. So at least this is the situation that I'm talking about and the point that I'm making. I really feel that this is not given enough attention. So when things start, going sideways and, couples are starting to not be happy, they have to think about these things. They have to, in my opinion, they really should try hard to save the marriage. Again, look, I'm not against divorce existing. I think there is a reason for it, for sure. But I don't feel the reason for it is what we see nowadays. It's just, I feel it's abusive the way divorces are started. I always felt extremely sad when something is broken or something doesn't work. And I guess this is generational, of course, and because I grew up in a time that divorces were still something that, weren't very common. And seeing how this is now kind of almost a hip thing, this is horrible to say, but it almost feels that way. Like, yeah, man, it really shouldn't. It's not something that you should feel proud of. And I'm not saying people are, they go into a divorce or they go into a marriage to then destroy it and be proud of it. Of course not. But I just feel it's the decision to end a marriage and relationship without trying everything is too normalized nowadays. And then if you have children, it's, it breaks my heart, honestly, because those children are in a disadvantage just because their parents, in the end decided to do that. When we're talking about divorce, and you have to be careful with who you're talking to. I know this is going to sound wrong, but it's such a serious matter that you have to be careful whose opinion you're hearing. That's what I mean. And again, I'm not saying that men don't do that also, and they don't, they might have a group of friends that, hey, just leave her. But it really isn't part of men's life talking about these things. We know that, it's again, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's not part of our reality most of the time. So, and women, when they're feeling down and bad, they do get together and they talk about things. And this is the point. You have to really seriously consider the friends that you're choosing to hear from. Look, there's a big difference between, for example, your best friend from childhood. There is something there, if you have maintained that friendship, that person saw you grow, knows you completely, knows your strengths, your weaknesses, everything you went through with family struggles, failed relationships, how you coped with them. I'm talking about the friends that will tell you to your face, like, that type of person that will say the truth to you, even when you're wrong. That's a friend that really knows you and knows how you will cope with the situation when the divorce comes. And, they really know, it's family. if you're having these talks with someone that doesn't have this notion of who you are, the possible traumas that you went through in life, the psychological difficulties that you may have, I'm talking about that friend that you go for the coffee, or the friend from work, and that's great. And I'm sure you have other stuff in common, and it's great to have these kind of trivial talks with that friend, and it's uplifting, and we all need those type of friends. But it's not the friend that might give you the best advice when it's something so personal, and it has so much to do with who you are, coming from your past, and what will be your future. Okay, look, let's say your friend, this person that they're really strong, and that's why you admire them. They're, this almost alpha male personality that goes through their struggles and, wins. And of course we admire that. I'm talking about women, huh? But did they go through the same things that you did? Did they have the same struggles, the same social background and story that you had? Are they aware of the type of person that you're normally or have related, or even this person that you're divorcing from? Do they know that type of person in terms of like what they are socially, the type of work or job they have, the type of personality that brings into the talk, the money that they make or not? Because if their world is completely opposed to yours, and they're just used to a certain type of man or person, they will give you a sincere opinion that in their mind you should leave him and you should just go forward and everything will go all right. Don't be afraid. And is that their reality or yours? Would that actually be your future? That might happen to them in that positive way because they're extremely strong. They have, they're a different person with different personality, with a different background, with different issues and strengths. So this is what I mean. Be aware of the people you talk to. And again, look, this goes for men as well, obviously. I just feel that the big difference here is, like I said, men don't talk about these things. And it will be like a maximum 5 minutes conversation over drinks. And it will just say, yeah, man, just leave her. You're better off without her. And it ends there. And of course, if you have a bit of a brain, those 5 minutes of conversation, what they said won't really alter what you truly think and probably what you will decide in the end. Or at least, if you decide to divorce, it won't be because of what he said. But I feel that within women's circles and friendships, there is a much bigger power of influence, I feel. Anyway, again, I just feel that it's such an important move, a life-changing situation that you're going to initiate, that really consider this, think about who these people are, where they're coming from, and don't see them just as, of course, I like this person, I respect her, and I appreciate every time she gave me opinions, but it's not in the same context that I'm talking about. And if you have children, you're talking with friends that have children too and experience divorce. That's also different. They can truly give you an opinion about things and maybe how hard things might be as well, or they might not, because again, they are completely different. They have different resources, and maybe because their attitude is completely different. So, you have to separate these things. As well, although I completely agree that a lot of changes were needed and that feminism brought them, and that was completely, needed and welcome. This last wave of feminism, I don't see it so much that way. And I do think it has a lot of negative things that aren't really in the best interests of women, and certainly, for men also. It's a political ideology. What men and patriarchy, just like you feel these things are politically driven and of the male's perspective and interests, this last wave of feminism, I feel it's exactly the same in the opposite way. And I truly don't believe it helps. Everyone has the right and the freedom to choose their own political views and what they defend and are interested in. But because of this, a lot of times, basically what I'm saying is that I feel that there is this social pressure from women to almost like elevate these ideas. And if you express that you are against them, and if you're a man and do that, that's bad. But if you're a woman, I feel there's this pressure to say yes to most of these things. And if you are against them, you're seen as someone that is, against the progress of women, and you are in favor of immediately patriarchy. You're with the men's team then. And of course we know that it's not like that. It's not as simple as that. And of course we have all the right to not agree with everything. This complete idea that we don't need men, and that's kind of what is thrown out there nowadays with this last wave of feminism is, men aren't needed. We can do it all by ourselves. Is that really what you as women want? And this is what you wanted when you decided to marry someone, and then you decided to have a child with that same person? I guess not. So, be aware of this. There, just like there are men out there that don't have your best interests in mind, of course there are women in the same way that don't have your best interests in mind. Maybe they just really just want you to be another one of the people that represent that flag, that political view that they have. And they're not so much interested in your true happiness and the consequences of what you might do to your future. It's kind of ridiculous that I kind of have to say this, but I do think it is important to talk about this. That's why I made the difference between that friend from childhood, that friend that was always there, and it's a completely different dynamic. Just as family, it's a completely different dynamic. Just as friends, it's a completely different dynamic. And 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 it's a completely different dyn And this doesn't mean that all family will give you the best advice, or that they're just thinking about you. Of course, we know, unfortunately, that's also not true. That's not comparable to your friend from work that, you just like to hang and have coffee with and talk, about whatever. And again, I'm not saying that you don't have more intimate conversations with that person or serious conversations, but considering the consequences of this life-changing thing that you're considering to do, the divorce, separation if you're not married, and mainly if you have children, you really have to think about it and at least filter those opinions. And because look, in the end, you are the one who's making the decision. And whatever will happen, it will be on your decision. Nobody's going to be there when things crumble and really go wrong to you or to your child. Nobody will be there at that point. So do think about what you are choosing. Again, it's your choice. It's not your child's choice. Your child didn't choose this for sure. And all this thing that it's out there that divorces don't damage children in that way, it's not that bad. I know a lot of children that came from divorces and they're great. And, I'm really happy that that is true and that exists. But that's not completely true or reality. Those are great exceptions. And thankfully, those children, they survived divorce, but maybe because the parents were also, maybe they were friends, maybe they really tried the best they could do to make things work, even if divorce. And probably it was a very agreeable divorce. And probably they're friends at that point. So they're not good examples. That's not true. It's simply, look, this again is not an opinion. Someone that tells you that it's not true, divorces, children will grow great, that's really not true. There's so many studies done on this. And we're talking about the situation that both the mother and the father are still there and engaged. And still, it's not something that is in any way good for the child. But if then there's the situation of either the mother is, put off the equation, or the father, as I said, that happens unfortunately quite a lot, there are serious consequences for that. Look, when you chose someone and you decided to marry them, and I'm guessing that possibly you dated for a long time before that, tried to know each other better and date for some time, and possibly even have the experience of living together for some time, whether that's good or not, but I guess that's most of the cases would be coming from that. And so you decided to marry someone. So that means that you have thought and felt enough from that experience to believe that this is the person I want for the rest of my life. Because let's face it, that's what marriage represents and what is said when you marry, and what you agree with when you marry. And then, if you are with that person during marriage, and of course you will have a lot of good years, months, well, let's hope it's years, and then you decide, I want to have children. again, you're making a decision. If you're deciding to have a child with that person, I mean, just like the marriage, I'm sure you considered the person, and you're thinking, this is the person. He's going to be a great dad. He's, this is all that I want. And I have no doubt that things will work. And then you are thinking about divorce. Look, I completely understand, marriage is tough, life is tough, things happen, life happens. But when you're making this decision to divorce, I mean, either that person changed completely from, in a very short time frame, and you're completely like, they start getting addicted, they start drinking too much, they started drugs, they started not being there and present emotionally for you and your child, and being completely selfish. But at a level, I'm talking about a level that is completely like, this is not possible. I do not recognize this person, and that's the reason why I don't want to be with you. Unless that's the case, then you have to consider, maybe you also changed. Maybe you're the one that now is feeling like, I want more from this. What I thought I wanted is not what I want now. You realize that my needs at that time, now they're different. I really want something else. And this happens a lot. But what also happens a lot is that people not admitting to that and just pointing the finger to that other person. And then it's all about, he's a narcissistic person, he is a horrible person. I mean, is the world made of 90% of narcissistic people? Let the doctors decide that, They're the ones who know what a really narcissistic personality disorder is. And it's not that common, truly. So don't use those excuses to kind of hide what actually happened. I would wish that people would be more honest with themselves, more emotionally mature. And I know that at the time when we're struggling and we're not happy, we're sad, you just kind of hate. You hate the situation, you hate where you are at, and you don't want to be there. But there's a lot that you can do. And one of the things possibly that you should consider is taking time from each other, serious time, and talk about things, and obviously seriously think about couples therapy, and you yourself having therapy, both of you. Possibly if people were at the different points in terms of emotional growth, they would think and see things in a different perspective. You cannot, or you should not, make these decisions while you're all heated up and you haven't experienced enough life and growth, for that matter, to then see this in that perspective. Because when things are done and finished, then it's difficult to go back to. I know there are happy stories of people that were divorced and, after 2 years, 3 years, whatever, even more, and they somehow rediscover a way to get together again. And that's great. But why did that happen? Because there was growth. They they really made probably an effort, both of the parties. There was emotional maturity that happened. They both took care of themselves psychologically. And that is great, but that's not the norm. We all know that. There's a lot of with divorce, there's so many bad things that happen, so many things that are said that are, so destructive. There's ego also. So the best is that you don't initiate that, I would say. Not before you completely see all that entails and the consequences. And again, if you have children, it really is worlds apart. Making a decision that just involves you and your partner, being it right, being it wrong, being it selfish, being it something that in the end you will feel you did a mistake, but it just involves two people that are the reason for what is happening. Even if the decision to have the divorce is coming just from one person and the other one is left, but still these are the two people that are involved in this. But if there are children, they have nothing to do with that. The only part they have to do with that is that they come from the good part of you both. There's not another way to say it. It's a selfish act when it involves children. You're not, unless it's that situation that you're protecting really the child from something that's completely justifiable, then you're making a decision that it's all only about you. Don't tell yourself that you're doing this for your child as well. It's the best for him. No, it's not. Study, read, and if you still decide to go through it, then you at least did that, you tried and you really did your best to understand things as they are. So guys, I guess it's time to finish this episode. I'm sorry that it was a bit of a darker mood today, but still very important things to talk about. And thank you for being here. And I really hope to see you again next time. Cheers.